Hey there, Tigers fans. Kenon Carter here, Detroit Tigers minor league tracker. I already published this recap from yesterday on my Facebook page today in written form, but I know some of you might be hard to consume. 1,500-word recap every single day might prefer some audio or video content, so I'll try and publish these in multiple formats every day so you can consume it in whatever manner is preferable to you. So it's not easy to do my typical minor league recap after a day like yesterday because yesterday was anything but typical. I left my house around 6 a.m. to head for Detroit. I arrived at Comerica around 9:15, parked my car in Lot 1 right next to the stadium. Then I caught an Uber up to Sinbad's, where I met with Roger Castillo, Chris Brown, and Paul Wesner. We did a 2-hour show that was heavily minor league focused. It was my first time meeting all those guys in person, and I think my first time doing a live show like that, so it was a lot of fun. Chris was my ride back down to Comerica, but after the show, he had to hop on the phone to be a guest on another podcast, an Angels podcast. And as we were hitting the road, I told Chris, my only fear is that we walk in the stadium and it's 3-0 Royals already. So we parked at the MGM parking garage because it's free, Chris said, so that's his preferred parking spot, and then walked over to the ballpark. And then as we were standing in line to have our ticket scanned, Chris was following the game on his phone. He looked up at me and he was like, 1-0 Royals. And I was like, all right, I can live with 1-0. So I had really great seats. I was in section 121 in the handicap accessible area, so I didn't have anybody around me. Directly above the first base dugout. It was really bitterly cold. I had a scarf and a winter hat and some really good cold weather clothes in the car, but I was like, yeah, I'm good, and I didn't bother loading up on that stuff, so I was freezing in a hurry. I was excited to see Spencer Turnbull in person for the first time. I thought he looked really, really good. He really confident for a guy in his 6th major league start. We've seen that in both of his starts this year. He kept Royals hitters off balance all day, relying heavily on that cutter that he's throwing around 86 miles an hour, inducing a ton of weak contact. Chris Brown came out with his podcast this morning, the Locked On Tigers podcast, and said it was like 82 point something miles per hour average exit velocity, which is like crazy low. And you could visibly see the bats being slowed down from where I was sitting. He was keeping him off balance. So I've been a big Turnbull fan for a long time, and I plan on staying on that train, and I just hope he stays healthy. It was really cool. Got to see Miguel Cabrera smoke a ball to right center field the way only Miguel Cabrera does. Saw Nico hit a missile down the right field line for a double, and Nico's bad misplay in center field that led to a run. Jacoby, where art thou? Good news, Jacoby's going to rehab starting tonight down in Lakeland. But Nico doesn't look really comfortable out in center field. He's a terrific athlete, so he should improve. But we need a legitimate center fielder out there, and hopefully we can shift Nico to left field, first base, DH, so we can keep him in the lineup every day. After Nico's second double of the game tied it up, I headed to the car because I was freezing, and the bathroom line was all the way around the concourse, it seemed, and I wanted to get down to Toledo, see some minor league opening day action, so listen to the rest of the game on the way down I-75. People in Toledo were crazy about opening day. It was like the whole city shut down. I was really late to the party, and so I had to park in some field behind the Toledo Farmers Market at the end of Huron Street. When I got there, Funkhauser was already laboring. We were in the second inning at that point. He had needed 25 pitches to get out of the first inning. No thanks to Willie Castro for the first of his 2 errors. He was getting pinched by the umpire a little bit, for sure, but he ran into a couple more full counts in the second inning, walked a pair of guys. Hens were down 2-0, and it was obvious Funkhauser wasn't going to go very deep into the game at that point. His slider was consistently in the dirt. He was nibbling a lot, which is something I've criticized about him for a long time. But it was really cold, and it was the first game of the season, so I'm not going to nitpick on him too much. Odrisamer Despaigne, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but he was on the hill for Louisville. He's 32 years old. He's had 109 career major league appearances under his belt, and that was obvious. I mean, that's clearly a guy that's pitched in the major leagues. He's just like this savvy, crafty veteran. He was pretty dazzling through the first 4 innings, using just deception, mixing low 90s fastball with a very slow curve that was 69 to 72 miles an hour. He's kind of a junk baller. And he was like messing around with his delivery even. Just, he was, excuse me, I think he could see where Victor Reyes was starting to load up. And so he would either speed up his delivery or like slow it down dramatically just to mess with Victor Reyes's load. So he did that with a changeup where he just did a really lightning quick delivery and threw a changeup, and then on the next pitch he held his leg up in the air for like a second and a half and then threw gas right by Reyes. He was just toying with him. He was laughing as he was walking off the field. Funkhauser made it through 3 innings. He needed 77 pitches to get through those 3. Caleb Tailbar came on. He was knocked around a little bit. Hens were trailing 4-0 in the home half of the 5th and hadn't registered a hit yet at that point. Brandon Dixon poked a hard ground ball to the right side for a leadoff single, and then Willie Castro followed that up with an opposite field base hit also. Dewell Lugo then sliced a line drive, went all the way to the right field wall, scoring Dixon. And then Cameron Rupp struck out. Jake Robson hit a rope. He turned on one. His first time up, he hit a bomb to center field. It went all the way to the 406 sign in center. But the breeze was blowing in a little bit, knocked that ball down. But this one was a double to right field. Absolute rope. Sandy Baez came on in the 6th. He was all over the place, and he was throwing 89, 90 miles an hour out of the gate, and he walked his first 2 hitters. Finally saw him get up to 92, and then he touched 94, so I felt a little better, but it was weird seeing him throw 89, 90 because he's a guy that typically lives like 95, 96, and he had no command at 89, 90, so I was getting a little worried, thinking there's an injury there, and maybe there is, I don't know. He threw a nasty changeup to Phillip Ervin, had some arm side fade to it. It was down and in, and he struck out Ervin to get the first out of the inning. He limited the damage to 1 run on a sac fly, and then I left after that. I was just cold. I was tired. It had been a long day. I wanted to get home because I had to work today. So then the Hens exploded in the 7th. Louisville loaded the bases with nobody out to start the inning. Danny Woodrow nearly emptied them, but Daz got thrown out at the plate. With the game tied, Ronnie El Felino Rodriguez singled up the middle off the shortstop's glove to plate Woodrow, give the Hens their first lead of the season. Victor Reyes followed up with an RBI triple, came home on a Dixon groundout for some insurance, and then Toledo drew 3 more walks in the 8th that led to a pair of runs to make it 10-5 Toledo. That was the final score. Zach Reininger and Jose Cisnero combined for 3 innings of shutout relief. Cisnero, I didn't see him yesterday, but he had a really good spring. He's a guy that can dial it up in the upper 90s. I think we'll see him in Detroit this year. Ryan Carpenter's scheduled to start tonight. Looks like it'll be another cold night, but no rain in the forecast, I don't think, up there. All right, down in Lakeland, Casey Mize was squaring off against one of the Yankees' top pitching prospects, Clark Schmidt. He's a younger brother of Flying Tigers pitcher Clayton Schmidt, who I featured on my website in the fall or late winter maybe. So you should check that piece out. It's an interesting story about Clayton Schmidt. He's a cancer survivor. But Mize and Clark Schmidt, the younger Schmidt, put on a show. Mize went 5 innings, no runs, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts, no walks, just overmatched Florida State League hitters last night. Schmidt didn't allow a hit. He struck out 9, walked nobody, and also in 5 innings of work. Tampa tagged Burris Warner for a pair in the 7th. Lakeland bounced back by manufacturing 1 in the 8th. It's a rough lineup in Lakeland. They're going to have to manufacture a lot of runs. But they manufactured 1 in the 8th without even hitting a ball out of the infield. And then Ethan DeCaster gave up back-to-back doubles in the 9th. That made it 3-1 Tampa. Heading to the bottom of the 9th, Cody Clemens led off the inning with a walk, and then Daniel Reyes hit a 2-2 pitch over the left field wall to tie the game and forced extra innings. Daniel Reyes was a pretty late round pick. I can't remember where we took him, 32nd round or 28th round. I mean, he was pretty late in the draft last year, but he was a really good hitter in college at the University of Miami, and he's done nothing but hit since he turned pro, so I like that kid. And then, so with the minor league rules placing a runner on second base in extra innings, Will Vest came in, struck out a pair of guys, and induced a pop-up to get out of the top half. And then the Flying Tigers came up in the 10th. Joey Morgan got intentionally walked to set up the force play. Cole Peterson dropped down a bunt to move him over to second and third, and then they intentionally walked Brock Deathridge to load the bases, again set up the force. And Brady Policelli lined a ball past the drawn-in infield. Flying Tigers get the walk-off win in dramatic fashion. Tonight, Tarek Skubal, first start of the season on Fireworks Night at Joker Marchant with Jacoby Jones rehabbing, and Drew Verhagen's also going to be rehabbing down there. So, exciting night for my friends down in Lakeland. And then finally, the Whitecaps, almost a perfect night for the entire organization. Whitecaps fell a little short in the 9th inning against South Bend. Caps jumped out to a 2-0 lead in the second on a 2-run double from Jordan Pierce. He's repeating West Michigan. He was there all year last year. Adam Wolf got touched up for 8 hits, 3 earned runs, and just 3 innings of work. Emily Walden tweeted about this, and Chris Brown talked about this too on his podcast. Adam Wolf's a guy we expect to dominate in the Midwest League. He's a college veteran, savvy pitcher with a 3-pitch assortment. But again, cold night, first game of the season. It's hard to develop some feel when the weather's like that. He got roughed up a little bit. And then Xavier Javier allowed 2 more runs in his Midwest League debut. And a positive Sam McMillan, who had a really tough offensive year last year in Connecticut. He hit a solo homer in the 6th. And then Yaya Shentoof and Drew Crosby worked 3 shutout in relief to keep it close. Caps went into the 9th trailing 5-3 on the road there in South Bend. Parker Meadows led off with his first hit of the season, and but Jose King rolled into a 6-4-3 double play to retire him. And then Wenzel Perez, with 2 outs, got the rally going again. He drew a walk, stole second base, and came around to score on a throwing error that put the tying run, Nick Ames, in scoring position at second base. And then Jeremiah Burks hit a little dribbler in front of the plate. Ended the game. They lost 5-4. So Wilkel Hernandez will make his season start tonight. And then Erie didn't play last night. Their opening day is supposed to be today in Erie with Matt Manning on the hill, but it looks like there's a lot of rain sweeping through the area today. So hopefully the rain moves through and the grounds crew can still manage to have some baseball tonight. So we'll see on that one. Hey, thanks for listening. This is a long video. These won't be this long every day, but thanks for listening again and for following my page, and I'll try to provide this content to you in as many different formats as I can. Thanks.